went out to the car, I heard these footsteps behind me. Two guys came running up, put a gun to the back of my head, told me I was dead because I didn't have any money in my wallet. They took my wallet and they ran off. Okay, got out of that one. I get in my car, I take my date home, I fill out a police report. I'm driving home the same night and I get T-boned by a drunk driver. Spins me around. Now, from that point on, I am a broke actor. My car has been T-boned. I don't have a car. I don't even have a wallet. I was at ground zero. And I began to think, what am I going to do? And you get paralyzed real quick because you feel that you just don't have any options in life.
That was just scratching the surface of the great interview I had with my guest today. I'm Jordan Murphy, and you're listening to Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy. On this show, I talk to friends, family, colleagues, you name it, about the shared experience we all have with breakdowns and breakthroughs, how they happen, when they happen, and how we navigate through them to ultimately find success in our lives. I don't know about you guys, but when I am in a situation where I'm in a group setting or with friends and someone is sharing authentically, the chances are that I'm going to walk away with some value. It may be a word, it may be a statement, it may be the whole sharing conversation. So during each episode, I'm going to be discussing people's experience with breakdowns, breakthroughs, why they happen, when they happen, and how they move through them to ultimately achieve success in their lives. So joining me today on the show is a very good friend, John Burke. He is an Emmy Award winning TV personality. He's also a certified hypnotherapist. He's joining me via Skype today, so please forgive the sound quality if it's a little bit echoey. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh man, are you kidding? I'm so happy to be here, Jordan. Really.
Yeah,
what a joy.
I know you are very busy. You and I both have kids. But I know also you've been traveling a lot for that show that you host, and you go all over Nevada, right?
Yeah. So just really fortunate. I'm doing the show for PBS, and it's called Outdoor Nevada. And please don't tell anybody, but they pay me to sightsee. And it's just me and a couple of camera guys and a Land Rover. And I don't know if I told you this, but we've done 20,000 miles in the state of Nevada.
Wow. Just
looking at splendor.
God's country.
Yeah, God's country. And dude, they're paying me for it. Right. It's just the best thing ever. Yeah.
Okay, well, so, just in case somebody's listening and they want to know, how do I find this show? Where do they find the show on PBS?
Okay, so if you're in Nevada, you can see it on vegaspbs.org. Otherwise, you can stream it. You can go to YouTube. It's everywhere. And then starting, I think in about 4 weeks, it's going to be national on the Create channel. So there's some outlets for you if you're looking for it. And I hope you do see it because, it's PBS. So everything there's no real conflict and it just feels good to watch it. You don't get tense. You get it's like an exhale.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And speaking of exhaling, you made me think about something because when I think about the fact that you get to basically get paid to sightsee, which was beyond my jealousy, I'm what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not jealous. I am, what's a nicer word than jealousy?
Well, knowing you, just having known you since, I don't know, 1895 or however long we've known each other, just knowing you that long, you're enthusiastic for me because I know you get it, that it reflects on you. And if I'm doing well, you're doing well. And there's been times where you're doing so well that if I just have a conversation with you, I book jobs. So I know you.
Well, I think about the idea of being able to spend that kind of time in that kind of environment. And I remember when I actually had the pleasure of going to Yellowstone and spending about 2 weeks. And I mean, out in the back country where literally I was not the top of the food chain. And you said, exhale. And what I think about is, as far as meditation, as far as finding space in nature, being able to be in something like Nevada or in certain areas of Nevada where you're not around the city, or in Yellowstone where you're in the middle of just wilderness, the ability to just tap in to nature and to just be quiet is exponentially easier than here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's even an ability. It's really strange because when I leave Los Angeles and I go to Nevada, after about it's within an hour being on the road, and you know, Nevada is home to the loneliest road in America. I mean, it looks like a bomb has gone off. In fact, it has.
Right.
You know, it's just wide open splendor, but within an hour it comes and gets me. And I feel that release, and it just takes me to a new place. And I think the hardest part of my job is when we've wrapped and I got to come back, and then I gotta get back into that frame of mind, but it will come and get you. If you get out in nature, you know, when you breathe that air and you breathe that exhale and you just take a look, it's amazing. And I've been to places too where your cell phone dies, you know, there's no service. Nevada doesn't have a lot of internet in the Netherlands. So you have no cell phone service, you have no internet, and you still have about 3 or 4 hours to go to get to your location.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's nothing you can do, but just relax and exhale. And all of a sudden, Jordan, you start, it's like a running back on a football field. He starts seeing downfield. You know, you're not just trying to get through the line of scrimmage. You start seeing the big picture, and that's just a real pleasant place to be.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was driving the other day, and this is going to probably sound way too woo-woo or esoteric, but I was driving to pick up my son from a birthday party, and I had been just in a weird funk. I have no real explanation for it. I have so much gratitude and blessings surrounding me, nothing to really complain about, but I was just in a shit mood, and I could not seem to shake it. And I had this moment of experiencing, you know, when we say, oh, well, you know, life's the journey, it's not the destination, right?
Right.
But really acknowledging, sitting there in my body and acknowledging I am here right now on the journey. This is it. There's nowhere else to be.
Right.
There's nowhere else to be. I'm here. But I spend so much of my time trying to be somewhere else, trying to get somewhere else. This isn't it. How do I get there? Why can't I be there? He's there.
That is so true. You know, I learned, I don't know when I learned it, but somewhere along the path, I learned that there is no top. There just is no top.
You're just not going to get there.
Yeah. Even people who are supposedly at the top are still growing and expanding and dissatisfied on some level. But there is no place where you just go, okay, I'm done. I mean, it just doesn't exist.
Well, I think if it does, they're shoveling a pile of dirt on you.
Like everyone else.
You're done. You're tapped out. I mean, if you've reached it, quote unquote, the top, you're not here on this plane any longer. You know, I think that you're done. I believe. I'd like to believe that the only reason I'm here is because I'm working something out. So, you know, how, you know, you and I talk about this stuff, and we have kids now. Do you talk to your kids about this kind of stuff?
You know, there's a lot of places in life I think I have credibility with my kids. When it comes to progressive thought, I walk very carefully because I'm not sure they're going to hear it from me, so I couch it. I may find a really good YouTube video and go, oh man, you got to put your headphones on. You got to hear this. And then I kind of go around the back door. But if I try and go over the top or through the front door, I don't want to say get pushed back, but I don't think I get as far as if I've sort of snuck it in through the back door. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a very sensitive subject, and it's not a subject that I want my kids to start to tune out or avoid because of what you're saying, which is, oh, there goes dad again, telling me to be mindful.
Man, you said it. And the thing is, too, is you look at kids today, I just said it, kids today, but their margin of error is so small that their lives can really go off track in just one bad, you know, Instagram photo, or, you know, they're so you really want to be able to walk through the front door and kick it down when you need to. But if you do it all the time, then you don't have that cachet. You don't have the credibility. So you got to be careful when you're going through the progressive thought.
Yeah.
When it comes to a stern warning, then of course, you know, as a dad, you kick down the front door and you say, look, you can't do that.
I think it is being very simply present to opportunities, and the opportunities are going to present themselves or they're not, and not to force it. And I think that that's what I've had to really dance with, is not this excitement I have. And I'm like, oh my God, I have these tools. I've learned these things and I'm practicing these things and they seem to be working for me. I want my kids to do the same thing. So they'll be miles ahead and they'll be terraforming Mars before you know, but I have to, like you said, you kind of have to rein in a little bit. And I had an experience not too long ago. I think it was the end of last year, and I was exploring the notion of manifesting and mindfulness and consciously creating or co-creating my world, because I believe that we create our worlds either on purpose or accidentally. Either way, we're doing it. And my thinking was, well, what if I got a little bit more conscious about what I was creating, right? And really thought about what I was thinking about and managed what I was thinking about more efficiently in such a way that if it's powerful and empowering, I'm going to entertain that thought. If it's not, I'm not. And my children, my daughters, they do well in school and they get graded on 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 4 is the best. And in order to get a worker's permit, they had to have all 3s on their report card.
Huh.
And they had all 3s except a 2 in math. And the principal would not back down. He would not sign off on it. So they weren't able to get a worker's permit.
Wow.
And I said to them, look, guys, this is not my choice. I know you guys want to have a worker's permit because they want to have an agent and be an actor. And I don't know what got that into their mind, but they realized, I said, look, guys, I'm not mad at you having it too. I know that you guys struggle with math, but I also believe that when you think about math, what do you think about? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? I hear you when you're doing your math homework. I hear you when you're talking about having a math test and you go, oh,
yes.
Oh, God, I'm terrible at math. Math is so hard. And they are passionate about it. And when thoughts emotionalized become magnetized and they attract similar and like thoughts. And I said, guys, you guys are thinking really negative thoughts about your math. My invitation, take it or leave it, is for the next few weeks, months, just try it out. Whenever you have math homework, when you have a math test, flip the script. I'm great at math. Math comes easily to me. Just see what happens. And they were like, all right, okay. They were open, but like whatever. One of them took it a little bit more seriously than the other one and actually wrote out statements and put them on the board. And sure enough, man, 2.5 months later, they get the report cards, all 3s. And
that's amazing.
And they've sustained all 3s since.
And that speaks volumes because we all hit those 2s. We all hit the 2s. Yeah. And you want to dig in and defend your position. But I'm right. I have data that supports my position that I'm terrible in math. And you want to go there. But then what you think is, listen, your best thinking got you to this point. So would you be interested in just changing the thinking just to see what happens?
Just see what happens.
Just as an experiment.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to them that they really, and a testament to you that they listened to you and that they took it to heart. But we all hit those 2s.
Yeah.
Where you go, you know what? I want justice. I want justice. Or I'm right. I'm right. Well, good. And how does that 2 feel?
Well, and sometimes I think fighting for being right about being less than or mediocre gives you a pass at actually working harder.
Yes.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean, I've been a victim of that. You're like, well, it's so hard and I don't want to do this and everyone's against me and the industry is this and my boss is that and, my wife did this. Well, okay, what is your part in this? How are you participating in this? But no. I'd rather complain about it and blame my circumstances than actually transform my thinking about my circumstances.
It's a very common human condition. Yeah. It's epidemic. I mean, we all do it. And all I can say is it can get cerebral real quick, which can bring in this sense of immobility. And what I've learned in my job, just traveling around Nevada, circling back to that, is that I do all kinds of sort of moderate, risky things. I jump out of planes. I rappel down cliffs, and I'm not that guy. I don't know how to do this, but I trust the systems around me. But what you learn is if you'll just change your state, then you can get away from that immobility because you don't want to get bogged down in the cerebral nature of it. Go into nature, go jump out of a plane, do something that just shakes up your mindset, puts it in a blender, and then begin that new thought, whether or not you even believe in it. And it's that ball rolling downhill that starts to get easier. And I got to tell you, Jordan, just knowing you, as long as I've known you, you've really gotten good at it. I remember when you took that turn, you said, you know what, I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna stop going left. I'm gonna go right. Feels weird. It doesn't feel authentic, but I'm gonna go right and see what happens. And I remember watching as your life just took off, and deservedly so.
Yeah. So on these episodes, we talk about breakthroughs, but I think we can agree that breakthroughs do not happen without breakdowns, which are usually not a very enjoyable experience. But, if you're a person who is committed to having a full life and having breakthroughs be a part of it, it's not for the faint of heart, right?
Yeah. Especially if you're doing it blindly. If you don't really know what you're going through or you don't have a strategy on how to deal with it, it can be very disorienting and it can spin you out for a long, long time. But if you have people that have gone down the path before you, it behooves you to listen to what they've learned from it, because it can really shorten your learning curve quickly.
So you and I have known each other for many years. We are both fathers. We're both married. We're both, have our professions. And I know you've got many, many stories, but I asked you if you could maybe think about one or two that really stand out that you would want to share today.
Yeah. And if I can just add to that for a second, Jordan, I think that, you and I have known each other for so long. I feel a kinship to you because I always feel like we're people who've paid attention along the way, through the pain, through the successes. We've sort of taken notes and paid attention, along the way and have been students of progressive thought. And that's why I've always felt this sort of kinship with you. And I can always bounce off where I failed or I've succeeded with you. And I felt that you've always been able to do the same. And, talking about breakthroughs and breakdowns, and breakdowns tend to happen. And the stronger they happen, the more you can look forward to a big breakthrough if you know what you're doing. But really, what is a breakdown? What is that? Well, you think about your car. When it breaks down, what happens? It becomes immobilized. It becomes paralyzed. It can't go forward. And I think that's what happens with us as people. We hit a certain spot and we break down. We become paralyzed. We don't move forward. And why does that happen? Because you feel like you don't have options. You feel like where you are is intolerable, but you don't know how to get to the next spot. And these breakdowns can be dramatic, or they can happen a little bit over time to where you wake up and you just feel like, how did I get here? Let me give you an example of the former. I was actually starving actor in Los Angeles, parking cars, the whole bit. And my particular car was breaking down. The engine block was cracked, which means little by little every day there was less and less power. And that's what happens to us. Anyway, I had enough money to go on a date. And I took this date to a restaurant on Melrose Avenue. But to save the $2, I parked down the street. I didn't valet it. After the meal was over, I said to her, hey, stay here. Here's some money. Pay the bill. I'll go get the car. As I went out to the car, I heard these footsteps behind me. Two guys came running up, put a gun to the back of my head, told me I was dead because I didn't have any money in my wallet. They took my wallet and they ran off. Okay, got out of that one. I get in my car. I take my date home. I fill out a police report. I'm driving home the same night, and I get T-boned by a drunk driver. Spins me around. Now, from that point on, I am a broke actor. My car has been T-boned. I don't have a car. I don't even have a wallet. I got a ride home from my date. I had to call her up, and she came and got me, and I got home. And the next morning, after not sleeping that night, I realized I was at ground zero. I had a breakdown. I had no car. My job was nothing. I wasn't making any money as an actor. And I began to think, what am I going to do? And you get paralyzed real quick because you feel that you just don't have any options in life. And what I've learned from that, Jordan, is that in that moment, if you will just step back, don't try to solve it, take a breath, decompress, and remember this very important fact. Somebody else has done this before you. Somebody else has done this before you, and nobody on this earth has ever had a breakthrough alone, which means that help is on the way. If you will just stay centered and look at what is the next best move. And ironically, I bummed a ride. I went to a Marianne Williamson lecture. That 2 days later, I got there and she spoke about forgiveness. And what is it? And you don't want to carry your past with you if it's causing you pain because it's just too expensive. In that moment, I began to have my breakthrough because I began to realize I could be new and I could be here and I could choose new things now. And that is exactly what a breakdown to a breakthrough happens. The next thing you know, I got a new car, I got a better job, and I began to spiral upwards. And luckily, I didn't have to stay in that space too long. But you see what a breakthrough does. A breakthrough makes it look like you have no options, you have nothing, and yet where you are is intolerable. And that's why a breakdown is so paralyzing. But if you'll just do two things, and that is one, remember that somebody has done this before you. And two, this is what I learned. If you'll just trust the systems around you. I trusted Marianne Williamson to get me out of that. I trusted my ride to the lecture that night. If you'll trust the systems around you, borrow some belief in yourself, and just remember that somebody's gone through this before you have, you can stay out of the land of being paralyzed. I know those are a lot of words, but I hope that makes sense.
It makes incredible sense. I mean, like you said, you and I have traveled down this road together for quite some time. So we've had many conversations that are similar to this. In fact, we've had a couple conversations when we were both, I think, in the breakdown and just having a little pity party for ourselves, waiting and wondering and turning the soil for the next crop. And, so I'm not sure exactly what question to even ask you, because you gave answers to anything I would ask, which would be, what kind of advice would you have for somebody who's in a breakdown, or what are the pros and cons? And,
Well, those are excellent questions. And I've learned something else about this, because if you're going to move forward, chances are you come to an intersection, whether it's pain or confusion, disorientation. And if you look over your life, usually you go left, and you go left. And it's really hard to say, no, today I'm going to go this other way. I'm going to go right. It feels counterintuitive. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels awkward. It feels disorienting. But again, if you will trust the systems around you, if they can be trusted, trust them, and you go right and you make a different choice in that moment, just something different can happen. Here's a mini breakdown, Jordan, that happened 2 days ago. I was in my house, and I was lazy. I couldn't get anything done. I was on the couch. I had nothing to do, and I couldn't get off the couch. And I thought, well, I got to get the mail. I got to get something. What can I do? And I actually, just to do something different, I turned on the radio and I hit Frank Sinatra. And that gave me an external stimulus that I began to respond to. And instead of going left and just laying on the couch and just thinking, I got out of my head, I listened to some music, and I went right. And then I got my day started. But it took a little external stimulus for me to get going in the other direction. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to rely on the people around you. You have to rely on, podcasts like this, but you have to go right. You have to do something different to get a different result. Anything, even if it's small, like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. When I've been sober over 5 years now, and when I first got sober, one of the things that I came to terms with is the fact that the crazy mind that got me into this mess is not going to get me out of it. So I was going to have to try something on new. And what I was going to have to try on wasn't necessarily going to be comfortable. But Tony Robbins or any other empowering individuals who you can name off the top of your head will say that to affect change like that, you have to change your state. And essentially, that's what you did in a subtle way by turning on a little old blue eyes.
And I think you hit on it right there. You said, listen, I knew that I had been going left, and it took me to this place. And my best thinking brought me to this dark place. So now I've got to go right. And that's where the rub is. Can you go right? Can you go the other direction? And can you stand the disorientation and the feeling of being awkward and this feeling of, this can't be right? Mm-hmm. But I don't want to do it the way I've been doing it. So that's the moment where you took control and you said, you know what? I don't know what lies up ahead on this other avenue, but I'm going to go the other way and just see what happens. Can I give you one more story?
Yes. No, I'd like you to.
It's funny because I've always found that experiences, when they're properly relayed, can really be effective for people. I know they are for me. When I listen to my heroes, I want to hear their experiences. And so I just want to share this with you. I shoot a show for PBS. It's called Outdoor Nevada. And periodically, I'm called on to do things that are very uncomfortable, extreme sports, rappelling down 150 150-foot cliff, or jumping out of a plane, or bungee jumping. These are things that you don't do on a natural basis. And I had to write a bowl. And I remember thinking, now, if this is going to be my job, what mechanism am I going to use on a daily basis to break through and allow myself to do these things that you wouldn't normally do? And this is what I learned. I was rappelling down a 150-foot cliff. Now, I don't rappel. I've never done it before. And it's very surreal. It's very anti-primal. You don't want to go backwards over a cliff. You just don't. But I looked at this rope and I looked at the clip that was around my waist, and I was listening to my guide. And I remember having the thought, Jordan, listen, Burke, you don't know what you're doing. So trust the equipment, trust the guide. And if you will do all you have to do is do what they tell you to do. If you will trust those systems, you'll get down this cliff safely. You won't even have to think about it. And so that's what I use all the time, whether I'm bungee jumping, jumping out of a plane, whatever I have to do, four-wheeling. If it's nerve-wracking to me, I say, can I trust the systems around me? And if I can, I'm just going to do what they tell me to do and nothing else. And I know that you've done that in getting sober. I think with technology today, there's a lot available to people where they can get information around them that they can trust and just do what the great ones say.
Yeah. What it requires is rigorous, mindful participation. I think that if you're wandering through and continuing to get beaten down, you really have a choice to either stay down or find a way to get back up. And I think that what you said, looking for resources online or through friends to get the tools, find the systems. They're out there. They're online. Talk to friends, talk to family members, look for podcasts. But you and I didn't just make this stuff up. We borrowed and stole from many of the masters. We've learned through our mistakes and our failures. And we've taken what we learned and we've put it to the test, and it works. And that's not to say that we're all done. We haven't figured it all out. We're still figuring it out. It's a day-to-day, moment-to-moment practice.
You said something interesting. You said, there's a choice. You can stay down or you can get up. And you have to ask yourself, why bother? Why bother? And if you're not living for somebody else, then you really have to drill down and say, why do I even need to try and be better? And the truth is that you and I know the state of the world. It's crazy. And we need everybody at their optimal right now. We have big problems, and we need everybody getting up off the canvas and choosing to be great. And it really is a choice, choosing to be great. And I think you could probably speak to this, that that once you make that choice to go the other direction, to be great, to stand up and fight, things start showing up to help your path.
Yeah. Some people they're not willing or able to take that leap, that leap of faith into the unknown. And I mean, it makes me think about something more oftentimes than not when we're planning on attacking a problem or overcoming some sort of obstacle or accomplishing a goal. We oftentimes forecast, I think, too far down the path. And I'm saying I've been guilty of this myself. But what I learned many years ago, and I try to implement when confronted with this, is just to take the next indicated step. And you alluded to that earlier. Just do the next right thing. Take the next indicated step, because I have to take the next indicated step in order to allow for the next step to present itself.
And, I think that what we're talking about here is winning, but the harder thing to do is the momentum. The winning happens, but the hard thing to do is to get up off the canvas and get that momentum going. And it only happens one step at a time. And anybody listening today, hey, they don't have to take our word for it. Go study any of the masters. Go study Martin Luther King Jr. They'll all tell you the same thing. You don't have to see the entire staircase, just the next step. All the great masters have said the same thing. So there must be something to it.
Well, John, you and I, we could go on and on, right? And you know what? There's always the possibility of a part 2. But I think for the sake of this podcast, this episode, we're going to wrap it up. Is there anything else you'd like to share? And before you do, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share a little bit about yourself with us.
Yeah, first of all, of course, thank you, Jordan, for doing this and having me on your show. This is incredibly important at an incredibly important time in world history. And I think it was, I'll leave you with this. Springsteen once said, remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. So if you're out there and you're living beige and you want to live in color, man, we need you. The world needs, we've never needed you more than we need you now. And if you're looking to be brilliant, if you're looking for permission, take my belief in you, because I want you to be great, because that makes the world a better, brighter place for me and my kids. So step on up, do what you can in the world, and then know that a lot of people are rooting for you, whoever you are and wherever you are.
Well, fantastic. Well said. And thank you to the boss himself for the words of wisdom. And thank you, John Burke, for joining me today.
Jordan Murphy, you're the best.
Stay tuned for more episodes of Breakthroughs with Jordan Murphy. Check out my website at breakthroughswithjordanmurphy.com and get connected with me on Instagram and Twitter. And if you have a great story to share, as I'm sure many of you do, go to my website at breakthroughswithjordanmurphy.com and shoot me an abbreviated version of your story to my email. I'll give it a read and maybe share a couple of them on the show. We'll see you next time.